Everyone thinks Google Ads is all about keywords and text ads, but that's old thinking. The advertisers printing money today are doing something very different. And in this video, I'm going to show you a Google Ads strategy that uses creators and influencer style content to dominate on Google Ads. Okay, so let me start by explaining why this shift matters now and why we need to change our strategy as Google advertisers. And it's because of how the platform has changed. So Google Ads targeting has gone from keyword based to more smart bidding, so letting Google work it out and get you the result that you want. And now we've got another layer added on top of that, which is creative first targeting, because campaign types like performance max and demand gen display, when you run ads on YouTube, your creative absolutely informs who Google is going to put your ads in front of. So Google's going to put your ads in front of a whole different people, and whoever engages with it, they are going to advertise to those people more and more. That's a feedback signal that then is used to optimize the campaigns. Now, of course, Google is also going to use the results that are generated. It's not just going to be based on who engages, but also, who is more likely to convert, who delivers highest conversion value, depending on your bidding strategy. But that's very much a core focus of what Google Ads is about now and what it's going to become going forward. And I speak to Google advertisers all the time, and I find that a lot of businesses are stuck with search-only campaigns. It's what most people think of when they think of Google Ads. They start running ad campaigns on search, which is perfectly fine to do, by the way, and I'm not against running search campaigns at all, but they get stuck there. They don't take advantage of the campaign types, or if they do, they don't necessarily do it properly. I think it's really important to expand to those other campaign types, to things like Performance Max, and run ads on the display network, run ads on YouTube, run ads potentially as part of a demand gen campaign, depending on the assets you have and where you're coming from. I'll get into the details on that in a minute. And the best performing Google ad campaigns today resemble social media ad campaigns more than they do traditional Google ad campaigns that are all just text focused, when of course advertising outside of the search network. So that leads to the obvious question, how do you actually go about doing that? Let's say you're a relatively new Google advertiser, or you've been running ads a while and you're search focused primarily. How do you expand to those other Google ad campaign types that are a lot more creative focused? Here's what I'd recommend. Hire influencers and creators to produce the creative assets, the image ads, the video ads that you need to take advantage of those other campaign types. You can take influencer featured content, stuff that they've made that includes them promoting your products and services, and run it on Performance Max and display and demand gen and the other campaign types that we've been talking about. And if they can produce sort of social proof heavy ads that don't necessarily feel like ads, things that get a lot of engagement, a lot of traction on those platforms, you can see absolutely fantastic results. So why am I such a big fan of this strategy, and why do I think this is such a good way to go? A few reasons for that I want to quickly run through. Firstly, your competitors aren't doing this, which provides you with massive potential competitive advantage. Like I said, most Google advertisers stay in their comfort zone, which is mostly going to be search, maybe a bit of shopping, depending on their type of business. And businesses that are search only on Google Ads, they're missing out on like 70% of the Google Ads ecosystem. Search is only a part of it. Might be the part that people think of, the part that people start with. That's all fine. And like I said, I'm happy for you to still run search ads. I know that's important. We do it all the time. But you don't want to miss out on 70% of the Google Ads ecosystem. And because search is so popular and so many advertisers focus there, it's really quite expensive. Whereas the other stuff is undervalued, meaning that if done well and you do it better than your competitors, a potential opportunity for lots of easy and relatively inexpensive lead sales, improve your return on ad spend, allow you to scale your campaigns, and all that sort of stuff. And other advertisers, your competitors that have, say, expanded to Performance Max or Demand Gen or something like that from just search-based campaigns, they've normally set those up where the creative aspects are an afterthought. Where, have we got any images we could just throw into this thing? Is there a video on the homepage or website? Let's just sling it in there. It's not been created purposefully, done the right way, that's designed to get the best results possible. If you can do it properly, massive competitive advantage. So I've talked about why I want to expand into those other campaign types. Why I want to use influencers and creators specifically is A, it means you don't need to develop that skill set. If you find it really daunting, thinking, how do I produce high quality images, let alone high quality video? That can be really difficult to do, a whole skill set to learn and develop. Google advertisers tend to be more comfortable with the data, the statistical side of things. It's probably why they were drawn to the platform in the first place. That's why a lot of Google advertisers have the advertising is very text-based historically. It's different to the Meta ads crowd to some extent, although of course there is overlap and that's becoming more and more the case. But if you hire an influencer or a creator, they're really good at this. They're good at creating video content because that's how they've become a creator or an influencer. So you're going to end up with something that looks really nice visually, has the right tone, is going to have that sort of social media type feel where it's very relatable, doesn't necessarily feel like an ad if you work with the right people. Also, when you work with creators and influencers, they have influence over your target market, which means you're far more likely to grab someone's attention when it's a banner ad on a website as part of the display network, or when it's an ad that pops up before a YouTube video. Much more likely to grab people in your audience's attention because people go, oh, I recognize this person. I'm more likely to listen to what they say. Their recommendation carries more weight, and therefore you're likely to get better results and convert. And actually, we've got some new data that's showing that Gen Z are far more likely to seek the opinion of a creator, of an influencer who operates within a certain niche before making a purchasing decision. Lots of creators will naturally produce content recommending various products and services that are related to what they talk about. And Gen Z are far more likely to look at reviews, to look at what they say, to help minimize the chances they buy something that they later regret. And I don't think that's a trend that's going to continue as people become more and more familiar with that. And it totally makes sense as a purchasing behavior, as a decision-making framework. Why don't I take a look at what such and such says, who I trust with their opinion? That's going to help me make better decisions. So in a second, I'm going to run through how to get started with this strategy. Before that, I want to quickly let you know about my Google Ads mentorship program, which is designed to give you as much support as you need to get the best Google ad results possible. That includes things like full ad account audits, ad reviews, recommendations on strategic changes, setting adjustments. We literally have someone, me or someone from my team, available on a live call about 10 hours a day, every day, spread across multiple time zones, because we have people as part of our mentorship program all around the world. So you can always very quickly get the advice you need to be able to implement your Google ad account and then get better results. If that sounds interesting, you can click on the link in the video description below, come through to a page on our website where you can book a free, no obligation call with one of my team members to find out more. And hopefully we get a chance to work together. So how should you get started with this strategy? Because I want this to feel quite doable. It certainly is. It doesn't need to be this daunting thing, hiring influencers, creators to do this for you. Firstly, I'd recommend that you partner with micro-influencers. Smaller creators, don't work with the big names that are going to cost a lot of money. A lot of advertisers assume this is going to cost a fortune. It absolutely doesn't have to, particularly if you start small. You can always look to work with people that are broader and potentially more expensive, have larger audiences later on. You may even be able to repurpose existing influencer content if people have naturally reviewed your products or services already. So you go out and hunt that down. Maybe your company has worked with people organically on TikTok, Instagram. Great, go ahead and use those assets. Might need to be reworked slightly. If you don't have that, also absolutely fine. You can go out and specifically hire people. You might need to contact a few in order to get some people to say yes. That's absolutely fine. That doesn't mean that this isn't a viable strategy, it just means it's going to require a bit of work. I would normally recommend people start by reaching out directly, but there are of course influencer platforms that you can use to easily find people and be able to make contact there. So don't see reaching out to and contacting and working with influencers creators as a hurdle that cannot be overcome. It absolutely is. I receive requests to promote stuff as an influencer myself, someone with a Google Ads audience, Meta Ads audience. Every single day I'll get messages. I even have a page on a website specifically where people can fill out and get in touch, right? So this is very much to be expected. The influencers creators on the other end are wanting people like you to get in touch, to ask for this sort of work. That's how they pay the bills most likely. So yeah, definitely give that a go. Don't overthink it, just get cracking and you'll find some people. And then once you have those creative assets, here's what you do next. You take your video assets, put them into your Performance Max asset groups if you're already running campaigns, or add them in as part of the new campaign creation process. Put your influencer-based videos, imagery into demand gen campaigns if you're using demand gen. Add your video in as YouTube-based campaigns, skippable stuff or whatever placement within YouTube you want to go ahead and use. And when you go about doing that, adding them into your campaigns, obviously keep a really good eye on the results, track performance, but be aware that the influencer creator first content that you're going to run as ads can be quite hit or miss. And normally the element that's hit or miss is the person. Is this person actually going to work for my business? Do they have sway over my audience? Does their recommendation carry enough weight? Quite difficult sometimes to predict that ahead of time. It's not just based on their follower count and audience size. So I'd normally recommend, budget permitting, of course, that you test a few different people, and some might miss and it might not perform very well. That's fine, that's to be expected. But others that can perform really well, can make an enormous difference. Not only because they grab attention so much better, but then their recommendation carries weight, right? So I've seen examples where a 2x ROAS has been converted into a 6x return on ad spend, literally advertising the same thing, same offer, but we've got a recognizable name within that space where their recommendation really matters and the results are way, way higher. Once you've got a bit more experience, I'd also recommend trying to take a little bit more control as the advertiser over the type of content that they will create for you that you can use as an ad. So the most important part, if you're getting video ads created for you, being the hook, the first 3 seconds, that's what determines whether or not someone actually pays attention. And of course, if they pay attention, then they're far more likely to become a lead, become a sale, become a customer of yours, right? So you can say, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this at the beginning. You might not know what hooks you want to use if you don't have a creative background in terms of producing video assets. But as you get more experience, or if you do, you can say, look, I'd like you to test this opening versus this opening in the 2 videos that I want you to create. Or can we test these 3 different options? Can you re-record that with a different opening line so that I can test different hooks and we can run that as ads as an experiment? Now, I've talked about the type of content you want from these influencers to be almost something that doesn't feel like an ad, almost feels like social media content. The one exception to that is you do want to make sure you include strong call to actions. So the beginning, the hook, the middle part of the videos, you want to be quite natural, just like the sort of thing that influencer creator might create anyway, but then end it with a strong call to action. Whilst we want it to feel natural and not necessarily like an ad, we do need people to take action. We need them to become a lead, become a sale. That's why we're paying for these assets. That's why we're paying to run the ads. And you need to recoup that cost to be able to reinvest, grow your business, all that sort of stuff. And then of course, like I said, track performance, not just based on engagement. These types of assets often get great engagement, but also how do they impact your leads? How do they impact your sales? The stuff that really matters to us Google advertisers. So I've got recommendations around the first steps to take in a second, but first I want to let you know about Hyros. Hyros is fantastic tracking and attribution software and can really help you improve your Google ad results. It's a software that all the big players in the industry use, including myself. I use it to track results for my own ads across multiple platforms, including Google Ads and all my organic results as well, which is super helpful. So if someone, for example, comes through and books a call for our done for you services, I can see exactly where that person came from. This is particularly important if you're running ads across multiple channels or generating customers organically as well. Without accurate data, you are flying blind, and knowledge is power. So let me show you how important this is. So I'm here in my Hyros dashboard. I'm going to take a look at the data and the results that Hyros has been able to track and compare those to what I'm seeing within my Google Ad account for the same campaign. So this is a Google Ad campaign that we've been running. We're only looking at data for a few days here, but it really demonstrates what's going on. So you can see Hyros has registered 6 leads generated, a cost per lead of just over £15, 75 clicks. It's just a branded search campaign, hence why the CTR is 30%. So not a huge amount going on, but representative, right? So that's the data we can see within Hyros. If I jump over to my Google Ad account, we look at the exact same campaign, same time frame. You know, we've got May 21st to 27th. You can see a lot of the data matches up, right? We've got 75 clicks, 30% CTR just like before. But if we scroll over, you can see that Google has only registered 3 conversions as opposed to the 6. So it's registered half the number of conversions. And I can tell you, looking at the back-end data, that the 6 from Hyros is the accurate number. And that's why this is so important, because we might look at the Google Ads data and come to the wrong conclusion, think this isn't profitable, turn stuff off when we shouldn't, but we can verify it with the Hyros data and make much better, more informed decisions and end up with better overall ad results because of it. So if you want to improve the performance of your Google Ad campaigns and be able to see exactly where your leads and sales are coming from, go ahead and sign up to Hyros. There is a link in the video description. So assuming you're currently running Google Ads, but you're primarily search focused, and that's where the majority of your budget's going, what I'd recommend you do is you dedicate 20, 30% maybe of your total budget to these other campaign types using the influencer and creator style content. That allows you to experiment, see how it performs without moving everything over and risking your current sales and lead flow. Like I said, you want to test multiple creators, and that's what I'd prioritize early on. That's going to be the biggest factor in determining whether or not it works, is going to be the person in the ads themselves. Some carry a lot more weight than others. And I think one of the most important messages I'm trying to get across with this video and in my content more broadly that I'd like you to understand is that Google is becoming a creative first platform, much more like Meta ads and other ad platforms than it has previously, where it's very much text-based. There's still a place for text-based ads and search, of course, but I think the Google advertisers that embrace this, lean into these are the ones that are going to win. And because Google advertisers traditionally aren't very good at this, if you can do this well, it's an area for massive competitive advantage. Now, if you have already tried using creators or influencer style content in your Google Ads, please let me know in the comments, let me know how it goes. I'd find that really, really interesting. And I've also got another ad creative recommendation for you, and that's to take a look at what your competitors are doing. I know a lot of advertisers find it really difficult to come up with ideas for good ad creative options. What do I even produce? How do I make it look good? What should I do? Well, your competitors may have done a lot of creative testing. They may have spent a lot of money and worked a lot of stuff out, and you can take a look at their ads, see which is working and model from it, and that'd be really beneficial both in the stuff you want to potentially create, but also the information you can provide to creators and influencers to say, please go ahead and create something along those lines. Now, I cover exactly how to do that, how to take a look at your competitors' Google ads in this video here. I show you how to work out which ones perform best and then which ones you want to model from. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't already.